In the yellow rectangle, there is the mathematical program for computing a max-min strategy of player I in a two-player sequence form game. Let us translate it in ample. First, we declare sets. We have Q1 and Q2 that are the sets of sequences of the players. Then H1 and H2 are the sets containing the information sets of the players, each one with the addition of a special fictitious element, H subscript empty set. Then we declare parameters. Uppercase F1 is matrix, with rows indexed by information sets of player I, that is set H1, and columns indexed by sequences of player I, that is set Q1. Lowercase f1 instead is a vector indexed by information sets of I, that is set h1. Then, the utility matrix of player I is indexed by player sequences, that is Q1 and Q2. Finally, we have matrix uppercase f2 and vector lowercase f2 for the other player, defined in a similar way. Now let us switch to variables. There is the realization plan of player I that we call R1, which has an element for each sequence of player I, that is, it is indexed by Q1. Note that these variables are subject to non-negativity constraints. Then there are variables V2. There is a variable for each information set in the set H2. The objective is to maximize the summation picture. Note that the sum is over the information sets of the player other than I, that is set H2. Then there are the constraints that define the values of variables V2, one for each sequence of the player other than I. Thus, we have a group of constraints indexed by Q2. Finally, there are the constraints which ensure that R1 is well defined. We have a group of constraints indexed by the set H1.